Hi, everybody. I'm pretending to be happy. How's everybody doing? I'm doing just dandy, just peachy. I'm your friendly adult communicator, and I'm here with another edition of Moohead Radio. Here in Florida today, the temperature has been really cool, about 62 degrees, but we've had rain by the gallon. It had rained yesterday over 3 inches with hurricane and tornado type weather, and we actually had a tornado touchdown. And the area that it hit was better off destroyed. It's a bad part of town joke. I'm your friendly adult communicator. It's Bing Bong, 2 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. On this friendly Friday, I'm Mr. Moohead, big and furry, friendly. If you want to be part of the program,
the I-4 was shut down as an 84-foot python. Right?
Fuck every one of you. Hey, let me tell you something. You want to be part of the program? We have the link on 2 different places. We have it on mooheadradio.com and right here on YouTube. Right? You just go into the chat room. And if you're lucky, you'll get to see Steven cleaning out his ears with Q-tips.
While eating an enchilada.
All right. No more of that. Yeah, it's the Browns pregame analysis show, folks. You're getting used to it because, well, you're just that kind of group. And I'm getting used to it, too. We actually have a chance. Every week we're out there on the field. We have a chance. And there's lots of stuff to report about. So I guess we'll jump right in. First of all, I wanted to say something that needs to be said because, people are the first ones to jump down your throat. When you do a show like this, you're going to be wrong X percentage of the time, I just want to say hi to the people in the chat room, and there are not very many of them. Jake Miller and Mr. X. Was something happening today that I'm not aware of? Or was it me?
It's got to be a travel day.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, everybody's getting off work, heading up for probably meeting family for Christmas.
Yeah, it's getting closer to the holiday season. And, of course, you know what I say. Boy, I'll tell you, it's really tough if you're Santa Claus because you only come once a year. When you do, it's down the chimney. And, boy, does that piss Mrs. Claus off. All right. Hey, hi to Big Lurker UK and Mr. X. Roxanne.
You were having quite the show today.
Yeah, we're going to have a really great... Roxanne is prone to hyperbole. Hi, everyone. You mean hello to the other 9 people. It's like...
I think he popped 3 of those oxycodones before starting the show.
No. I'm not on any pain meds at all right now. I'm not on any pain meds at all right now. And
so you're saying you're drunk?
Not at all. No, I'm just putting on a really brave front. It is really awesome. What I wanted to start out saying is people will always tell you, you're wrong about this, you're wrong about that. And then I come back months later and I say, where... it'd be a segment of the show. Where are these assholes now? And everybody who chastised me, what would you rather have now? Josh Gordon or the 5th round pick? What is times where all of the listeners who bothered you were wrong, Alex? He's gone, of course. like he's always gone. What are you laughing at?
I just saw the double fingers go up as I'm reading the chat room.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is what, it's like, I told you this guy has a legitimate health problem. Everyone's worried about football. And this guy's got no life. He's going to die. He's addicted to drugs. Might as well
talked about this in week 2.
Might as well face it. He's addicted to drugs. I mean, that's the bottom line. Josh Gordon can't play football. All right? Whether he's good at it when he tries doesn't matter. Psychologically, he can't. And what he does is when things get close to important playtime, in this case, the playoffs with the Patriots, he craps out because he just can't handle the pressure. He is fucked up mentally, and he wasn't worth a plug red cent. And everybody who just jumped down my throat for saying, we are better off without this guy. By the way, what is Mr. Moohead was right again, Alex, for 600? Where are we now compared to where we were with Josh? Huh? Somebody want to answer me now? Oh, everybody's quiet. Wonder what happened. God almighty. Is that right? We've won 4 out of 5 games? Is that right? We have a 1% chance.
You and I were in agreement on that, right?
Yeah. I'm just wondering.
You were preaching to the choir on that one.
Yeah. What are people seeing out there? What are people seeing? What are the people who are saying, you know something? I think the Tribe's going to be better next year. And it's like, that's Andrew Miller heading to St. Louis, My God, how did he get on the Gateway Bridge already, motherfucker? God, he's fast. Anybody who is anybody for the Cleveland Indians is God. And who are you replacing Andrew Miller with? Adam Simber.
Did you see the trade with the Reds?
The Reds got what? They got Yasiel Puig and they got Kemp, right?
Yeah.
What'd they give up?
Let me look. Okay. It says Dodgers reportedly trade Matt Kemp, Yasiel Puig, Alex Wood to the Reds in a massive payroll clearing move. That's CBS Sports.
So money and a bag of donuts.
Yeah, well, but here's the deal.
Yeah, they gave money too.
Well, the Dodgers ran up the biggest bill you could imagine. They didn't win it, so now they're doing the Florida Marlins, and the Indians never were in it to win it. Oh, in their imagination they were, but no, in reality, not so at all. It's too bad. The whole thing is too bad. But I just wonder what the fans are seeing. When they write these things, and it's like, is it that they really believe what they're saying, or are they just like on drugs like Josh Gordon? What's the story here? I guess I don't understand.
Hey, I'll be right back. There's somebody knocking on my door. I'm going to go tell him go away.
Yeah, you do that. Tell him to go fuck himself for me. Thank you. Here's
Unless
the
it's
thing.
your mom, that might be bad.
See, this is the Christmas stocking. It's either the Christmas stocking, Mr. Hanky the Christmas Poo, or Kunta Kinte's condom. I'm not exactly sure what exactly. Yeah.
Or his foreskin. You never know with those people.
This is hailing back to the good old days of what Friday shows used to be like, unfortunately. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns, because obviously this is another huge game in the development of the team. And the interesting thing that I can tell you today, I went over to cbssports.com, and, Pete Prisco and Jason LaCanfora and Will Brinson and Jared
As if you weren't paid enough.
Ryan Wilson, John Breach, Dave Richard, and Jamie Eisenberg, okay? They all have one big thing in common. They've all picked the Browns to beat the Bengals. This is the first time that we've seen such a thing. But
Isn't
with this
Eisenberg from that Fox show, Brooklyn Nine-Nine or whatever?
Who?
Eisenberg.
I don't know. He owns a bank somewhere. Hi, I'm Jamie Eisenberg, and I own a bank. Yeah. So at any rate, here we go. So the Cleveland Browns have an opportunity to double down on Hugh Jackson. And the interesting news that came out in the week leading up to this game is that Hugh had some kind of contact with Baker Mayfield, although it was not described or explained what or why, except that Baker walked away from the experience saying that he felt no differently than he did before, and that Hugh Jackson is a fake. And that's basically, and then it didn't stop there, because then Baker called the fans out and said, look, you guys better show up and actually pay for a goddamn ticket and get your ass in the seats and making a lot of noise. And now this game is sold out. And we'll see if the crowd is as loud as Baker wants them to be. But Baker's
for the record,
yeah,
that was my neighbor bringing me cookies. So,
no,
I didn't say go away.
Is your neighbor gay?
No.
He was baking cookies for you.
No, it was a she.
Oh, I just assumed that in this gender confused world that we live in, that you had like a sitcom, you had a transgender neighbor. I mean, it's possible. It's possible. I was reading a story just the other day of about that transgender MMA fighter who crushed the skull of a female fighter. Yeah, I always thought, it's kind of an advantage being born a man in that instance, Couldn't understand why she was so strong.
I had a trans walk in the bathroom once on me, scared the crap out of me at first.
Really?
Does that make me a terrible person?
No, no, look, I have no problem with transgenders, but I don't think they should be in an octagon smashing women's heads in. I mean, I just don't think that that's really cool, I think that, it's bad enough when the Browns back when, were playing teams who were like the Patriots, that's enough of a mismatch. We don't need to put gender into this equation as well when people are using their hands as deadly weapons. Very, very strange. But at any rate, Baker Mayfield then calls the team out and says, something, we have a lot of guys with expiring contracts on this team. And, if you're not ready to go full bore and go all out, then get out of here. Now, I'm sitting there going, whoa, what's up with that? I wonder who he has in mind. Katie Collins! Excuse me. I wonder about that. He wouldn't talk about any specifics, and all the other players said, we really don't specifically know of anybody who's not in it to win it. And, I think it's a galvanizing thing, because I think Baker is smart enough to know that when you're being picked widely to beat the Bengals, that this is a perfect trap game, You get off to a lackadaisical start. The Bengals are fired up, and, they're coming off a win. And you're like, you can get caught in a trap game real quickly. And I think that Baker is smart enough to realize that, I'm not going to let that happen. I want to get our guys whipped up, and I want the fans in a frenzy when this game begins. Now,
and in addition to that, Jarvis Landry and Greg Williams both echoed those same sentiments and said he's absolutely right.
Oh, yeah. Greg Williams is behind it all the way because, again, I think if you've been around the game long enough, you kind of get a feeling when you're going into something where you can, you actually think that you're better than somebody can be dangerous when you're still not that good. Mr. X is saying, wonder if we can get a female kicker.
And I said there's one from Sierra Vista that's actually good.
Really?
I think she's missed one kick all year.
Wow. I mean, Mr. X, I mean, you might know a female kicker. I don't know. I don't personally know one. I have some ideas, but I wouldn't know where in the hell to find.
Unfortunately, it won't be Kathy Ireland.
No, that's boy, you are a sexist pig, I'll tell you. Kathy Ireland. All right. So
don't you remember she was in the movie?
What
with
movie?
She was in the college football movie with Scott Bakula, who goes back to college and plays quarterback for Northeast Texas State or some fucked up name like that.
I wouldn't watch anything with Scott Bakula in it, so you're talking to the absolute wrong person here.
Well, it also had Sinbad in it.
Yes, Derek.
Speaking of college football, I don't know, you might not care at all, but I don't know if you've seen the transfer rumors of Justin Fields. Do you know who I say? Okay, so here's the dilemma at Ohio State. The early signing period for recruiting was Wednesday. This is Ryan Day's first recruiting class, so keep that in mind. We had 3 5-stars, 7 to 8. One's not committed, or one's committed, hasn't signed yet. 4 stars, 5 3-stars, and so the dilemma with Ohio State in the quarterback position is, Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah.
He's a redshirt sophomore, and he's eligible for the draft this year. A lot of people are expecting him to go to the draft this year because he's a prototypical NFL quarterback. He's 47 TDs to 8 interceptions this season.
But in no way is he ready to play in the NFL. In no way is he ready.
No, he'll probably sit behind somebody. But anyway, back to this transfer. So Justin Fields was the either number one or number 2 quarterback in the 2018 recruiting. And he's sitting behind Jake Fromm right now at Georgia. And pretty irritated that he hasn't started, which obviously when you're that top-tier quarterback, you're going to want to start. So he has explored the transfer options, and his top 3 schools are Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Florida State. So for Buckeye fans, I know if you're, Browns fans, there's a good chance you're a Buckeye fan too. So if any of you haven't seen that, keep an eye on that. That could be a big-time move for Ohio State.
Well, I just don't think that Haskins is ready to play NFL ball. And Roxanne, sometimes roughness is necessary. Okay, what can I tell you? I mean, thank you for the heads up on that. Great. That was an Academy Award-winning performance by Scott Bakula, as I recall. 18 minutes past 6 o'clock. You've got to tune to Moohead Radio and the Cleveland Browns. I wanted to go over Cincinnati Bengals statistics for 2018 because it's kind of an interesting thing. We have a small sample now on Jeff Driscoll now that Andy Dalton's dead and buried with his little red hair sticking up out of the grave.
Still starring. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Andy Dalton completed 61.9% of his passes and Driscoll 60.2. All right. Basically, an average of 7 yards per completion for Dalton, 5.8 for Driscoll. A long of 49 for Dalton and 37 for Driscoll. 21 and 11 is the TD to interception ratio for Andy Dalton, and 4 and 2 for Driscoll. So dead on 2-1. In sacks, Dalton was sacked 21 times. Driscoll has been sacked 9 times. The quarterback rating overall, the QBR, 64.6 for Dalton and 38.2 for Driscoll. But overall rating, 89.6 for Dalton and 80.2 for Driscoll. To be very honest with you, those are not tremendous differences, considering that Jeff Driscoll never really played before. So average yards, per game, I guess 219 for Dalton, but only 100.4. Is that correct? Am I reading that correct for Driscoll? Which is a little misleading because he wasn't starting until a couple of weeks ago. The strength of the Bengals, of course, Joe Mixon is a power runner. He's averaging 4.8 yards a carry and has gotten stronger as the season has progressed. He's averaging about 83 yards a game. Giovanni Bernard, who really has had kind of an off season, he's more of a receiving threat. He's only averaging 3.8 yards per carry. Driscoll and Dalton both scrambled to the tune of about 6.2 for Dalton, 5.3 yards per scramble for Driscoll. So, there isn't a lot to suggest that there is that much of a difference, except that maybe Driscoll hasn't seen nearly as much as Andy Dalton. And if you put pressure on the young quarterback, maybe there is, they're going to have plenty of.
Is he a rookie?
Driscoll. I don't know that he's a rookie, but he had never started an NFL game until this year. And I don't know very much about the young man, except he looked good in the closing moments of the first Cleveland game because we were playing just basically a soft zone. It'll be interesting to see. They're going to give him a lot of check down options. The Browns are really going to be bringing some pressure on him. So
no, he's not a rookie. He was taken in the 2016 draft.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a guy who was expected to be a big-time player in the NFL. or you never know for sure. You know, the Bengals are 6-8 this year overall. Receiving, Tyler Boyd has 14 games played and 76 receptions. That's your guy. Over 1,000 yards in receptions, an average of 13.5. And then AJ Green, who's having, you know, with, you know, is AJ back and healthy now, guys?
I thought he was on IR.
Both AJ Green and Boyd are out for the game against the Browns.
Well, isn't that a clusterfuck?
And to me, Joe Mixon is basically like the second coming of Corey Dillon for the Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, but at 4.8 yards per carry is a pretty damn solid average. He's also caught 40 passes out of the backfield. I think you're going to see a lot of dump offs and a lot of possession type receptions. If you're telling me that all these guys are hurt, I don't know who's going to step up. The tight end Uzomah has caught 38 passes. It's slim pickings as far as the Bengals offense is concerned, although they scored a good number of points. I think they scored 30 points last week, but it wasn't the offense that really did it. There was defense involved and short fields and turnovers. Their top tacklers,
right
Jesse
now,
Bates.
The strength of their team.
Yeah, Jesse Bates, who's really getting a lot of press as a first-year player, with 99 total tackles. That's the pleasant surprise, their MVP, if you will, as far as who is doing what. As far as sacks are concerned, again, Geno Atkins with 10. He is their top pass rusher. If you were wondering, in sum total, the Bengals quarterbacks have been sacked 30 times, and they have sacked the quarterback 33 times. But Atkins has not really added heavily in the last several weeks to his sack total. He is not a spring chicken. You wonder if, you hit a wall at a certain point of the season, but that's the guy the Browns are going to be paying a lot of attention to. Billings, a tackle, has 2.5 sacks, but it's mainly dispersed in scheme for this team. The 33 sacks, there is Dunlap, their defensive end, who has 8 sacks. So that's their 1-2 is Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap.
Jesus Christ, is Hardy Nickerson still playing football?
I had no idea. Jesus Christ retired years ago, though. Just saying. So as far as, the kicking game.
Oh, we get Denzel Ward back, too.
Yeah, that's correct. He's out of concussion protocol. That's good news for the Browns. And Randy Bullock is their place kicker, 16 of 20, 80%. So he's more solid than our guy. Their punter, Kevin Huber, is averaging 43.7 yards per kick with a net of 39.2, which is not utterly outstanding by any stretch of the imagination. So from a statistical perspective, everything would point that this game looks like it is a winnable game for the Cleveland Browns. But, now, Bronk is chiming in that Necessary Roughness was nearly as good as Angels in the outfield. Yeah. It's like, yeah. What was the one about the kid, the little boy who becomes the manager of the Minnesota Twins? What movie was that? Was that
Little Big League or something like that? Oh, wait, no, that was the one about the Cubs.
Yeah, I forget the kid. Somebody looked that one up, and I don't know.
He becomes the manager of the Minnesota Twins.
Look, no Bronk. He says Jesus Christ retired with bad hands and ankle injuries. No, it was the holes in the wrist. I'm sorry.
No, it was that plus the sliced and diced liver didn't help him.
Exactly. So, Stephen Rose says, "I be in chat room in 3 minutes." He's ebonicsing us.
Good English.
Yeah. Little Big League. Thank you, Roxanne. Thank you, boy. She is a veritable fountain of knowledge when it comes to really sub-mediocre
Either that or
movies.
she left IMDb open just in case we throw some more references out there.
Yeah, that movie is one of the most disgusting movies as far as ridiculous sports movies that you'll ever want to see or not see. And I would urge you.
By the way, I seen for the first time this summer the movie Waterboy. Now it's one of my favorite movies.
Bobby Boucher. You like Bobby Boucher. You like a guy running around like a moron. Huh? And you got off on Henry Winkler. Yeah, okay. All right.
Still plays better than...
Next week he's going to get a tattoo of Roy Orbison on his ass.
Oh, that's really hip and cool, too. Yeah. Big dark glasses on your butt cheeks. That's really awesome. All right. So, as far as, what can I tell you? I mean, the Freddie Kitchens thing is interesting, too. It looks like the press is trying to pimp Freddie Kitchens into thinking that he's going to be a head coach, and Freddie's playing along with them, saying, there's a team located somewhere that builds a lot of manufactured homes. I suppose I could coach for that team. Now, Freddie Kitchens has done a great job for the Cleveland Browns, but, I don't think, and I don't know what they're doing. They're like, he is the next. And this is how it always starts, The guy has just started calling plays, folks. He's just become an offensive coordinator. I mean, can we kind of tone this down a little bit? He's not like the coach of the Rams.
No, that's fucking Mary Kay Cabbagehead running her goddamn hole again.
They always find the one example, the head coach of the Rams, he from 2014 to 2016 was an offensive coordinator who never called plays. Then he becomes the head coach of the Rams. They go 11-5, right? Everybody uses the one example, Is anybody talking about Drew Brees now with Baker Mayfield? It's like, short quarterback can't succeed in the NFL, They always use the one example. Freddie Kitchens has done a great job. And the reason he's done a great job is because he's kept Baker Mayfield's head in the game, and Baker has caught on as far as to the way Freddie is openly.
Well, he's letting him do what he wants to do.
That's right. He's allowing him to be himself, and I think that's just vastly huge. And, Freddie,
such a simple concept that a lot of offensive coordinators can't do.
Well, look,
ridiculous.
I'll tell you, there is not a better place to be in the NFL, and I'm being dead serious about this, than being a young offensive coordinator at a time when the right quarterback comes into your life. I mean, stop and think of all the guys who were quarterback coaches / OCs for Tom Brady and the Patriots, and how they progressed their careers because of this. I mean, you could go on forever with the Brandon Whedons and never end up anywhere. You can end up like Pat Shurmur and end up with yet another dying old quarterback and you go nowhere. But you can be a young guy, and if you hit the jackpot and get that promotion as offensive coordinator, and the Browns come out next year like they're ending this year and go to the playoffs, they're going to be people who offer him head coaching jobs. That's the way it is in the NFL.
I wouldn't be surprised if they offered after this season. Just a turnaround after Todd Haley.
Yeah, no, I think they need to see a full season of it. And, and Freddie's saying he's not trying to bump anybody out of the picture or anything like that. He's being cool about it, but I loved his quote. He said, they said, but would you be ready to be an NFL head coach? And his answer was, who the hell's ready to be an NFL coach? It's like, it's kind of what happens, And the other thing that was interesting about this whole discussion with Freddie Kitchens, that it finally came out that Greg Williams did not select him as the offensive coordinator, which is an interesting thing because they didn't go to Greg Williams to ask him what he thought. Jimmy Haslam and Dorsey brain trusted it out and offered the position to Kitchens. And that, again, tells you that the promotion to head coach is not a guarantee that Greg Williams is going to be back next year, folks.
Hey, Mr. Wood.
Yep.
So, Mr. Mood, I wanted to ask you a question in regard with Freddie Kitchens. I jumped in just in time.
Yeah.
Do you think this Browns winning all these games out? Let's not even talk about playoffs. We're just talking about just winning out. All right.
Yep.
Do you think this is going to determine what coaches on the Cleveland roster is going to get other promotions for other NFL teams? Do you think that has a role into it?
I think it's a little early for some of that, but I think if they prove that they come out again next year, you're
Do
going to
you think
get
Freddie
defections.
Kitchens and them is auditioning for other positions and for other teams, possibly?
No, because you look at who we got, and they've basically. I mean, Greg Williams is praying to the baby Jesus he remains a head coach. Freddie Kitchens, despite all of this, aplomb that he's receiving as an offensive coordinator, they're buttering his butt with this talk of being a head coach. He's got to be thrilled as hell. He's sitting in a great position as an OC with a good young quarterback. Wiley, who just broke his ankle, God only knows that's got to, and he's not going to be on the field, for the Bengals game. Wiley's an incredibly popular guy, and I would be shocked based upon the performance of the offensive line since we moved Desmond Harrison out, and as the thing has gelled. I would be shocked if Wiley would go anywhere because he's an older fellow who, quite honestly, is an offensive line specialist, and we need that in Cleveland badly. I think that they're going to offer him more than fair money. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if the Browns went out, do you think this would help Greg Williams' position for head coach, or do you think Dorsey has his own mind? And if not, does the Browns winning out help Greg Williams possibly land a head coaching job somewhere else?
It shouldn't be a problem.
It's already predetermined.
No, I think that Greg Williams is in great position. He's received 11 calls for head coaching jobs by his own assessment earlier in the season. He should be in, and I'm being very facetious about this, but that is what he said at a press conference, that he had actually received 11 inquiries from around the league. So if what he said is true, if we take him at face value, it's not a problem. If it was a blustery kind of comment, he doesn't think he's in any difficulty whatsoever. And
will this add leverage to Cleveland to possibly give him a long-term deal? If they have their eye on him, if they're considering him, do you think this will be added leverage with those phone calls?
I think it's a mistake to do that. I think that if you want to keep him as a defensive coordinator, if he will do that, I mean, he might choose. The thing with Greg Williams, he's a very emotional guy, and the thing about the NFL and sports in general is that once a guy like Derrick Rose becomes a league MVP, it doesn't matter how badly he plays thereafter, how many injuries he has in his head, he is a league MVP. And no matter what team he plays for, he's going to gun the ball up like he's still a league MVP. And again, this is a huge successful year for the Browns and coming off of a horrible season. And Greg Williams probably feels that he deserves to be a head coach at somewhere at the NFL level. And if the Browns don't afford him that chance, it's going to be difficult to keep him as a defensive coordinator. But I got to tell you, I'm not real high on Greg Williams as a head coach. As a defensive coordinator, it's going to be a lot like, the whole Buddy Ryan kind of thing. A lot of these defensive coordinators are lifetime defensive coordinators and jump from job to job. That's what I see more likely happening, is that if we bring in a head coach, that head coach is going to have a defensive guy and that Dorsey is going to have that lined up. Because if you're the Browns, you have to assume that if you don't bring Greg Williams back as the head coach, that he's going to go elsewhere, even if it's as a defensive coordinator someplace else. The way you do this in professional standards is you offer him the defensive coordinator job and give him the right to say, thanks, but no thanks, move on as a free agent. And then, of course, you bring your own guy in. There's a lot of ways of handling this diplomatically. But, in a way, it's a shame. He's a 17-31 lifetime career guy, head coach, before he got to Cleveland. But I think everybody who watches this team knows that Baker Mayfield is the predominant reason that and Dorsey, let's not forget about the general manager who's really spruced up the roster, but that, we're a better football team, deeper in talent than we were when we were 0-16, and we finally have a quarterback. And I get the impression that the loss of Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley actually brought this team together. I don't think that it was Greg Williams ascending that brought them together. I just think it was a pure case of addition by subtraction. And, again,
I think everyone's playing off the momentum of Baker Mayfield because he is a true leader on the field, and he's very charismatic, and he just gives all positive energy, and it affects the players around him.
They're going to get him a playbook early. If there's going to be a change in the coaching in Cleveland, they're going to get him a playbook in a big hurry. And he learns playbooks. He's go ahead.
Isn't it fair to say that I would almost compare him to the LeBron James of the Browns? Like what I mean in terms of, if you look at the Browns, I mean, the Cavs were never as talented with the rest of their players. Njoku, Higgins, and all them were like the J.R. Smiths and all that, right?
Right.
And you bring in Baker Mayfield, and he makes them shine, man. That's all.
I would agree. That's not a bad comparison. Even though at first I didn't know where you were going with it, but I'd say that nobody can say that the Browns have an elite wide receiver. We don't have an elite tight end. I think that we have. I think that Jarvis Landry is an elite slot receiver and a middle of the field guy, but certainly not a big play guy. And he'll be available for more opportunities if we get somebody else outside. But yeah, he's actually made Callaway and Perriman look like NFL players, and they looked nothing like NFL players in their previous incarnations. I mean, Perriman, they ran him out on a rail. I mean, for a first-round pick to get bumped off like that before the only time in Ravens history, by the way, that a first-round draft pick did not survive his rookie contract in Baltimore. He is the first guy. So they ran him out of town on a rail because he couldn't catch the football. And Callaway was so green and inexperienced, it would seem almost inconceivable that he would be contributing this much. But it is incredible watching the Lakers play right now. It's incredible that LeBron actually makes Lonzo Ball palatable. I mean, it is remarkable to see how he makes teams better. And
you're not hearing LeVar Ball anymore either.
No. I mean, and here's the other thing
that's really, they don't mention him, his dumbass.
Yeah, he is a dumbass. I look at guys like Edelman, the receiver for the Patriots. Do you really think that guy would be so great if he wasn't playing with Brady? I mean, you stop and look at some of these guys and
average.
Yeah, and their skill sets, and you say, gosh, I think they're elevated so tremendously because they play with this guy. And you see the early stages of that with Baker Mayfield as well. It's really something to behold.
There's a lot of average receivers who get lucky. Well, you could say get lucky, but you bring them in with these elite quarterbacks, and you're seeing them, get led and put in the right positions to make the top plays, and that's what makes Baker as good as he is. And I don't be surprised if Baker replaces LeBron on that wall soon. Don't be surprised.
I want to say hi to Pat Segerson. How you doing in the chat room? Who are the people's wish list, or what is the wish list for head coach at this point? This is an interesting question because we were faced with a dilemma about the general manager situation after the Sashi Brown, debacle. We needed somebody who had some chops, and when we brought Elliot Wolf into the fold, there are a lot of people who felt that Elliot Wolf, because familial, connections, being associated with NFL things his whole life, might be a future general manager, which is probably the case, but it was too early on the curve. We hired a guy who was a tried and true guy who has made some very solid moves over the course of his career. And we're at that crossroads with the head coach. Right now, you're in a position where you have your quarterback. I think with the draft, you're going to get receiver. You're going to start really trying to you're going to hope that one of those guys, Perriman or Callaway, is going to blossom into something better. You're going to hope that Njoku learns a little bit more. but you're going to be able to draft some players who are really actual depth for you at wide receiver, not just guys like Damian Ratley.
And it's a very young roster. Very young roster.
So, I mean, you know, you need more depth at the wide receiver position. And, you know, Dorsey's done such a great job. It makes you wonder if you followed the same strategy, you would go with Mike McCarthy. And a lot of people will cringe because that's part of the old boy network that I complain about all the time. But the question is, do you really want a guy who has never been a head coach and you bring in from the college world? I mean, is that what you want? Right when you're turning this corner, you know.
Unless it's Lincoln Riley, I'd say no.
Yeah,
because Lincoln Riley right now is the only one from college who you could say you could fit in and match because of the Sooner history with Baker, and they connected so well in college. You've seen that, you know. So that's the only college coach right now that I'd say I'd be more than happy to have.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I keep saying Josh Heupel, because he played for Bob Stoops. He went to Oklahoma. He won a national title with Oklahoma. So they would have that in common too.
So is it fair to say that those are the only two coaches from the college level that y'all would be okay with? Other than that, you want somebody that's NFL bred already, right?
Well, I think you have to start looking at something. I mean, when you look at a guy like McCarthy, he obviously had a great history with Aaron Rodgers. He had success as a head coach. He knows the thing about Greg Williams. He turned over the defensive play calling to his son, and you know, he has, and he's toned down his act, and he's just kind of riding a wave. But if things took a turn for the worse, would Greg Williams be the guy you'd want steering the ship? Or would you want a guy who has done the job, who's seen the wars, and who really knows how to delegate responsibilities a little bit better? I just, you know, Navarre is saying in the chat room, if Ron Rivera gets fired, that would be a good look. I don't want Ron Rivera. Yeah, for all the riverboat gambler talk about Ron Rivera has always been a defensively minded coach, and you know, I'm not going to put their quarterback.
That's like Greg Williams, basically, if you put a defensive mind coach in there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just not. You know, I know that Cam Newton has not lived up to the accolades of earlier in his career, and Ron Rivera is always on the hot seat because they've never quite gotten to the promised land. They looked like they were there a couple of years ago, and things just never turned around. They haven't drafted the right kind of offensive players. They always have. No, I mean, there's always a guy who's like a Julius Peppers or a Luke Kuechly or something who a big defensive star on that team. But, you know, it's like, God, where is the offensive talent? And I think that has something to do with the fact that Rivera is a defensively minded head coach. And I don't think that would, you know, I don't want him touching Baker Mayfield at all.
Well, here's the thing. If you would bring in somebody like Bruce Arians, I know that's a popular thrown out there for a candidate. The only thing with that is, you know, he's 66. So, I mean, if you bring him in, he's not going to be there, you know, for the long haul, or, well, you never know. But the odds of him staying long are, you know, slim to none compared to where if you did take a chance on somebody like Lincoln Riley or, you know, somebody younger. So that's the only bad thing about bringing in somebody like, yeah.
Bruce Arians wouldn't make it through an entire season.
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't want a Browns retread. I don't want a Browns retread.
Yeah, I don't think Arians has a chance for the job. Arians, just for the record, said that he would keep Freddie Kitchens as an offensive coordinator. I think that any coach who's coming in would keep Freddie Kitchens. There would just be no reason to take that duo apart right now. I mean, it's one thing if it stops working, but you know, you don't. When you're on a winning streak, man, when you're on a roll, you don't change things.
But if you got Mike McCarthy, he would blow that up because he would be the one that would want to call the plays and install his own personal offense. It would be the same thing as getting Todd Haley.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of getting Mike McCarthy.
I'm not either.
I'm just pointing out that this is where the road forks, and I'm not sure myself because college is such a different game than the pros. And the thing is, offense is big, but offense at Oklahoma is radically different than putting in an offensive scheme in the NFL level. And
the Big 12 doesn't have very good defenses. So
No.
Baker said that. I seen an interview. Baker said they asked him, like, what was the difference, going from or playing in a Big 12 defense? He said, it was easy. And that's the thing with bringing in, Lincoln Riley. It's going to be, you're going to have that next level of difficulty. And that's what I could see. The only reason why they wouldn't bring him in is because it might be a bigger step that Dorsey doesn't think he's at the level yet. Because keep in mind, he hasn't been there that long at Oklahoma as far as head coach.
That and the team would regress because then you would have to wait till the coach plays up to that level. So then you're looking at a 2-year process probably.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was interesting that Kobe Bryant spoke to the Browns, and he probably spoke for 3 hours about himself. That's what I think of Kobe Bryant.
Since we're on NBA talk, can I just mention one thing about LeBron James?
Most certainly.
On ESPN, and Stephen A. Smith covered it too on his YouTube channel. Apparently, smaller GMs of the NBA are wanting the NBA to start investigating on larger market teams that are doing tampering, trying to make sales pitches on other teams before their contracts are up. Because you've seen this with the Heat, you've seen this with the Celtics in the Big Three, you've seen this with the Lakers in the Big Five with Malone and Payton, and they're saying that they're getting sick of it. And the reason why is because LeBron made a pitch to Anthony Davis in LA and said if he came here next year, this would be amazing. And notably that he still has one more year on his contract. So where everybody goes to one team now. And these smaller market general managers know that they don't have a chance. So they're telling the NBA, hey, you need to start going after these guys and telling them to stop breaking rules. I was wondering what your thoughts were about that, about tampering and all that.
Here's the thing with that. I feel like – I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Go right ahead, please.
I feel like by saying, trying to enforce rules, that might be good for a little bit of that. But they have each other's numbers. They're all somewhat friends. So they're going to say, hey, text, if he's texting Anthony Davis.
Twitter, they're all on Instagram.
Oh, yeah. But I'm saying if you're saying, hey, well, we're getting so-and-so, we're going to, come to the Lakers. It's going to happen.
Well, allegedly, that's what LeBron did with the Heat. He texted Wade and Boston and said, hey, if you take less money, you can come here.
Yeah.
Well, let me, I guess, answer a question with a question. And that is, if Anthony Davis is 2 years away, which is the case from being a free agent, right? And you are the Pelicans, and you have already lost one guy to the big team, right?
Yeah, to the Clippers.
Yeah, and obviously you're not going to what's the way, you're not going to keep Anthony Davis just playing, middling to losing basketball in New Orleans.
Yeah. And
you have two choices. One is getting the most you can with Davis as a player, knowing that each day that goes by, his value diminishes because everybody's going to sit there and wait because he's a free agent.
Yeah.
Or you can take an earlier offer that might give you, in your mind, a little bit more. But the question I'm going to ask you in return is, you can sit there and point at LeBron James and say he's tampering, but it's the league. Isn't it the league that is creating this? And isn't it prefabricated and predestined that these people end up going to the same teams and creating the marketing wing, if you will, of the NBA?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, to me, this isn't news.
I mean, if AD goes to LA, not only is the New Orleans Pelicans a 15-win team, if that, but also that's just going to make the league only like a two-man league now, two-team league. Warriors and Lakers.
They don't care about that.
It's basically a one-team league now.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they've got to make something interesting out of this because there ain't nothing in the East. I mean, let's be honest. Gordon Hayward came back, and he's not the same player he was in Utah. Or he was the same player he was in Utah, but the system in Boston just isn't working for him. And you haven't seen Kyrie grab his knee for a while, but that will happen. And you got a bunch of teams, the Celtics, who are underperforming. You got the 76ers, who just don't seem to have quite enough to get over the hump.
Who'd they just get? Oh, they got Butler. That's right.
Right. I mean, but you're looking at this and you're saying there's no team in the East that can compete with the teams in the West. So if you got to build another strong team in the West, and it might as well be the largest market you can find, which is Los Angeles, and that's what the NBA wants to do. It's the league that's tampering, and it's not an individual player. LeBron is a believer in using his power of his position to get what he wants, and that, this is what. Let's be honest, that's what Magic Johnson did when he tampered. As far as meeting with LeBron, this is the way business is done in the NBA. It's look good. But play dirty behind.
Why is it that the NFL is so better at enforcing their rules? Like sometimes we think they oversee too much or they govern too much, but even they have an enforcement policy that's way better than the National Basketball Association.
Well, here's the thing with that. I think that this has an impact. The fact that the NBA, you got 5 guys on the floor, where the NFL, you got 11. So it's like to be able to. I mean, you can say to your buddy, "Hey, come join." I think correct me if I'm wrong, you've seen a little bit of that with OBJ and Jarvis, but it's like the NBA, it's a little, you scared the crap out of me. Holy crap. Anyway, so in the NBA, I feel like it's easier to be able to get, somebody else over because of the less players on the court.
Yeah, and that there's only so many good players in the league. I get it.
Well, I'll tell you something else. The NBA is different because you look at sports like the NFL as an example, and there are still fans of teams. All right, NBA fans are like WWE fans. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever bullshit Vince McMahon pulls, turning this baby face into a heel or this heel into a baby face, they're going to buy in because they just are fans of the league, if you will. In the NBA.
Hey, speaking of WWE, I want to show you something. Hold on.
Oh,
go ahead, Mr. Wood.
Yeah. With the thing with the NBA, fans follow winners. LeBron James goes to a new team. Ask the people at realcavsfans.com where X% of their people went on forums. They evacuate the Cleveland forums and they go to the Laker forums because they're not really Cleveland Cavalier fans. And all you have to do is take a look at the dead building at the Quicken Loans Arena, and you can see that there's no interest, there's no fire. The team went from being this incredible juggernaut that won a championship to not even being able to draw any interest in the city. The NBA fans are NBA fans. They're not team fans.
Mr. Wood, when the Lakers came here, and I got the video of it on my channel to prove it, there were fans sitting beside me that wore a James jersey, but it was in the Cavs jersey.
Right.
And they were at the Lakers game. And I saw that, and I thought it was fascinating. And it goes
by the way,
you're right, that they're fans of a player, not necessarily a team.
That's right. That's right. And the NBA knows that, and they're not going to enforce tampering rules and things of that nature because the more these players join forces, has it hurt the popularity of the NBA that Kevin Durant went to the Golden State Warriors? Hell no, it didn't. I mean, this is what, and did the fans care where he came from? I mean, let's be honest. Oklahoma City's not even a fucking franchise. They were Seattle, who was a franchise that they moved into Tumbleweed City, okay? And when Russell Westbrook's gone, they'll be right back where they were in Seattle without a fan base whatsoever. And the people egged on Durant to go to the big team. He became a villain for a little while. It's no different than the WWE, you know? Let's boo Durant for a while. And Durant
Hey,
responds.
this is what I wanted to show you.
Oh,
It suckered me into getting one.
Goodness gracious. But I think in the end, when all is said and done, if you're a fan of the league, if LeBron plays one place or another, as long as LeBron's playing, that's great. You're really in it for the playoffs, and that's about the only reason you're in it. The regular season doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot, except speculation as to whether the Lakers are going to be able to get this superstar or that superstar and how this deal is going to go down, whether we have to wait 2 years or 1 year for it to happen. That's just kind of the way it works.
And it started 30 years ago with David Stern, who started marketing Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, not the Lakers, the Celtics, and the Bulls, individual players. And that's carried all the way through to now.
And I'll tell you something else. And it's college basketball, which has followed suit. So you have, Zion Williamson, and you have, people who have big names already when they're freshmen in college, and they become part of that name game. So all the they've cut the NBA draft to 2 lousy rounds because there's not enough players to go around. But in the end, still, people will watch and flood by the millions to see who drafted who and who they can swear at. If they can swear at the Knicks for getting a guy named Knox again for the 35th time. This is what it is. The NBA fan is a fan of the league, and they're not going to stop tampering because they know what butters their bread.
Oh yeah. Also, Chris Paul pulled his hamstring yesterday really bad, so they said he's out indefinitely. I'm predicting 6 to 8 weeks. So that argument's done.
Yeah, I mean, going young has its advantages. It has its disadvantages. But you know something? You might as well turf like the Cavaliers have turfed, because being a team that wins 35 games, and loses 47 gets you a lousy draft pick and no attendance in the league.
Mr. Bouhet, am I going to be a hypocrite for saying that? I'm very upset with this weasel Chris Paul, because he demanded his 4 years guaranteed 164. He gets all of his money regardless. And I said this was a bad sign-in for 4-year deal. And I know he's a leader of the players union, so I know he knows the numbers and everything. And he's trying to protect his line of pockets. I get that. But from a fan and a GM and a manager perspective, this guy screwed us. This is his 3rd time he's pulled his hamstring in the last 6 months. And there's no longevity. He's 33 going on 34. And you know how those parts on a used car go. When they go out, they go out. And this guy robbed us. It's $4 million. I'm sorry. I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's just the way the league is. I mean, you can complain about it all you want. It's teams are going to go after big name players. It's just that way. We got to pick the Browns winner here, guys. So let's do that now. We'll start with Brian. Brian, what is your prediction for the Browns Bengals?
I'm writing it down.
Well, so far I'm a very happy 0 for 3 picking against the Browns. So, and they've won all 3 games. So I'm going to continue that streak, and I'm going to pick the Bengals 17-14.
But he's not superstitious, folks. Okay, Derek, you're next.
I'm going to say 27-10. I think this is going to be a bigger win for the Browns than a lot of people are. I just don't feel like that the Bengals are going to match up very well. It's at home. That he was going to get booed out of the building as soon as he walks on the field. We're going to come to play, and we're going to whoop him. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a very dominant game. And I'm predicting 27-10. Baker's going to have the game of his life.
All right. Steven?
I know I'm going a little bit far-fetched when I say this, but I'm going to say Cleveland 35, Bengals 0.
All right. My feeling about this game, 31-20, Browns win. There's going to be a meaningless junk touchdown at the end of the game. So really we're talking about what's going to look like a 31-13 game. My feeling is that the Browns still, there is a fire of resentment against Hugh Jackson. There is also a number of Bengals approach Browns players and say, why are you guys talking trash and talking big when you play for the Browns? And I think there is enough of a burr in the, on the saddle that these players, this isn't just the fact that they just had a win here or there, but they're starting to get the taste of what it's like to win. They don't have the pressure of having to win like teams who are going to the playoffs or who are on the bubble for the playoffs. They don't have any of that pressure. That'll be the expectation and the weight on their shoulders next year. So for now, what they have is that chip on their shoulder, and all they have to do is look across the field. And you know, there's going to be a couple of things that you see. You're going to see Hugh Jackson, first of all. You're going to see Vontae's perfect. You're going to see that. And then you're going to see, you know, Marvin in one of his last games as a head coach. And then you're going to see Driscoll at quarterback, and you're going to see that their receivers aren't playing their top guys. And you're going to see an opportunity to put a hurt on somebody. And you know, the Browns have been winning games and winning close games. And, you know, to go out and dominate somebody like they did with the Bengals the first time, when you go out and dominate somebody, then it really shuts a lot of your critics up. So I think 31-20, but it's going to be that last-minute garbage touchdown. I see the Browns scoring over 30 points in this football game.
Here's the thing with this. You see Freddie Kitchens come out and be conservative after the second half like they did last time. If you're whooping them, keep that gas down and you keep driving and you keep scoring on them.
Do you guys know the weather for this game? Because everybody in the comment section keeps asking what the weather's going to be like.
Yeah, I'm typing it in now.
Yeah, what's it look like?
Yeah, Brian, what was your score again?
Mine?
Brian Hallman.
I had the Bengals 17, Browns 14.
Okay. Wrote it down.
So what does the weather look like? Freezing rain and low 30s? Ooh.
Well, I got 41 degrees with afternoon snow.
Well, I mean, that means that a front's coming through, because 41 degrees would probably be the temperature in the morning. And if there's a front going through, that would turn rain into snow. So, yeah, somebody might want to.
It's been very rainy here in Columbus.
Well, we've had nothing but rain here in Florida. But what I'm suggesting is, if there is a front that's moving through, yeah, that's right. Bronk is correct. I mean, scoring 31 might be a very difficult task. But
all right, I'm changing my score. 2017, Cleveland.
Yeah, you know, I think that this does change that, but I mean, it doesn't change the end result of the game. If Cleveland wins the game 20-10, it doesn't really change that to me. But low 30s puts that, you know, freezing rain and some snow. You know, that could, and a lot of it has to do with afternoon. You know, is that going to be a second half thing? That there's going to be a change when the temperature drops, and that's going to turn from rain to freezing rain. You know, you don't know when it's going to hit. But
on that football, when it hits you, and especially when it's frozen, it's like a dagger almost, right?
It's one of the reasons why when you if you walk out of the field,
as hard as Baker throws, good Lord.
40. If it's 40 degrees when you hit the field, you better have a good start to the game, because if you want to take advantage of the track when it's more runnable than you know, than later on. So
you suggest they should run the ball more?
Yeah, it's going to be a running game, basically, in the second half.
I don't necessarily believe that. I believe that you have to be able to call plays that are sensible in the context of things, but you know, you still got to let Baker Mayfield do what he does. And, you know, we don't know what he does on a sloppy track. We're just going to have to sit back and watch it. I got to go, though, because I'm sitting here and my knee is, you know, my knee. So I do want to get out of here, but I want to thank the guys for showing up. I'm sorry?
How's the medication? How's the knee doing?
Oh, the knee is the knee. I mean, we're in weeks 2 to 4 now, and it's going to be hard work. We got a lot of hard work to do. So this is a lot of strength, you know, getting strength back in the leg. So I've abandoned my walker. I'm utilizing around the house just me, not a walker anymore.
After 4 weeks, you can put that weight on it? After 4 weeks?
Oh, right now I'm putting full weight on it. Oh, yeah. I mean, I put full weight on it for the day after the surgery. Yeah.
What's the schedule going to be like for are we going to do a show Sunday and then Monday, or what?
Oh yeah. None of that's going to change. I'm not in any, not in any bad ways. I mean, the fact is that I know that the time of the season and all, but we carry through with our schedule. So yep, we'll be on the air halftime and post game on Sunday and back on Monday for our post game considered analysis show. Stephen, thank you for jumping in. Derek, a pleasure as always. Brian, thank you very much. And we'll be back again with you on Sunday at halftime. Thanks for tuning in. And until Sunday, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.
Move.